we almost chew up the entire time of the show with the headlines. It's a vastly different animal these days.
And that's by design. We know this, right? The Trump administration understands that the more they flood the zone, the more difficult it is to grab onto any one thing. And
Elon's literally saying that we're not going to get handed this good in a while. We better play our cards now.
We're going to play some of these clips. I mean, from prior to inauguration, all the reporting was they know they only have 2 years. And they are operating as if they're in a getaway car. And it is quite clear from the reporting as we get into this today that, and this is, I think, we speculated about this, but we're seeing it now, and it's still, as much as we had talked about their desire to destroy the administrative state and the idea that Trump is going to be like, do whatever you want, just give me a taste. We're seeing that right now. The White House doesn't seem to they're just like, Elon's being Elon. And I don't think Trump cares, frankly, because, from Trump's perspective, he can't go to jail for anything. Mm-hmm. He's only going to enrich himself extensively. And he's just sort of like, what do they call it? Drafting behind Elon, in bike riders race, you draft behind. I think that's what he's just doing. Right. And so.
And it's not like he has a terrible interest in governing anyway. So he might as well outsource it to a guy that he thinks is smart because he's the richest man on earth. AOC was saying today how she thinks he's maybe the dumbest billionaire that she's ever spoken to. And I don't know. I think that's fairly accurate. But Trump is a dumb guy himself. So, of course, he thinks that Elon's a smart guy.
At the end of the day, their intelligence is largely irrelevant in my estimation.
Sure.
Although, we're entering into a period where it's like we're always going to have sort of two hands on all of the way that we assess these things. And we're going to talk about this with the USAID. One of them is what's the reality of the situation? And the other is what's strategically the best way to present the situation? Because so much of what we're seeing now is going to rely on the American public caring about stuff that they don't normally care about because of the failure of our political and media class, in my estimation. Things that they don't normally care about and really won't understand the impact of until it sort of filters through the system and actually directly affects them months, if not years down the road. And so we will get to that. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if a billionaire is smart or stupid. They still have the ability to act on a whim and wreak havoc. And now we have the world's richest human being in the history of the world deciding they're going to tear through our government. And no one seems to either want to or know how to stop him. And let's be clear, this is a Republican project. It's just now they have the weapon in which to carry it out.
A one-man wrecking ball who has this ideological desire and self-interested desire. He wants to become the world's first trillionaire, and he sees this as his best opportunity to do it. He has this anarcho-capitalist vision, right? It serves perfectly the Republican agenda.
Hundreds of billions of dollars.
And he can stifle any dissent from his own side because he can threaten to use that wealth to threaten anybody who stops him.
It's basically as if somebody, in this era, if someone had showed up with an army of 3 million people, armed with weapons, except for, this is the way you do it these days. All right, let's, in one of the challenges, obviously, in this particular moment is like, what's the most important thing for people to be watching? And, we're trying to sort of like, parse that out. But as of now, the most dangerous thing, I think, is, what was reported on the show yesterday by Nathan Tankus. And it's obviously being reported by other people, too. But he's really been out ahead of a lot of this stuff and some of the reporting. I want to remind you of what he said yesterday on this program when he was talking about what kind of access his reporting at that time yesterday, Monday morning, showed the Muscovites had in Treasury. And when I say these, like we're talking about people who are in their early 20s. And I'm not suggesting that there aren't really smart people in the early 20s, but a lot of great things come out of people in their early 20s. There's a lot of hubris with those type of people. And that can be a good thing.
Or a lot of controllability.
Yeah,
if
they're expendable and controllable.
And they're basically a part of the overall like Peter Thiel, Elon Musk outfit. They're going to be eager to please and do whatever he says.
And I also want to reiterate one of the reasons why, I don't know the names off the top of my head. One of the reasons why we're not naming those names is because Elon Musk has gotten the U.S. attorney from Washington, D.C., to now send letters to any media outlet that is naming these government officials, supposed government officials, or at least who are using government emails.
This free speech? Didn't he take over Twitter for free speech?
Yeah, Trump did an executive order for free speech, I saw Matt Taibbi say.
Well, that's not that free speech. There's a different free speech. Anyways,
to say
here is Tankus yesterday on the show.
Seen anything I've seen, maybe I missed something that came out today. But we know that the anonymous sort of softening, trying to assuage fears is that they only have quote unquote read only access. So they can only look through everything, but they can't change things themselves, allegedly, according to anonymous sources. Whether that is true, whether that holds true, you remember LIBRIC they only got rid of LIBRIC Friday. It's Monday. The state of play is very fluid, so they can be, not have or not choose to try to start changing things, and then they can start trying to change things Wednesday, or, word comes down, that, how strong, especially in the context of the original reporting I've done about this, how strong is this alleged idea that Basant, let them in, but only under the condition where it's read only. The other thing I would say about that is that they don't read. The point of looking through the code is to try to change it. That's the point. And so they can propose changes that actually the civil servants in theory would implement. And you can go, well, see, they're still read only. They're kept away from it. But in practice, is the Treasury Secretary going to be the resistance point for inappropriate changes? And I think the answer, the Occam's razor answer with everything we know right now is no. Which also leads to the converse danger that the process that happened with LIBRIC happens iteratively.
So as of this morning, at 8:14 a.m., Jeff Stein reported saying that we now have multiple conflicting reports about what kind of access Shitcoin staff has. I'm not using Doge. I guess I have to. Staff has, but that's the part of the dilemma, right? Staff has to Treasury's payments. Wall Street Journal and New York Times have said Doge Treasury access is read only. Wall Street Journal cited a person familiar, and New York Times cited a White House spokeswoman. Now, as Tank has said in that, he's a little suspicious of that. But Wired and Tankus today, this being Tuesday, citing conversation with staff, say that's not true and that they crucially have code editing privileges as well. Well, I read now, and Stein has heard conflicting things. I read now from Tankus, who says, since I published my article at 6 a.m. yesterday morning, that would have been Monday, a number of current and former Bureau of Fiscal Service officials have reached out and unfortunately confirmed the accuracy of my reporting. All thought read-only access was extraordinarily dangerous to the country. Unfortunately, my sources also tell me that the subsequent anonymous sources mainstream journalists has reported who worked to downplay the situation are not accurate. Wired beat me to the punch of reporting that a top Doge employee, 25-year-old former SpaceX employee Marco Iles, I guess I'll be arrested.
Oh, no.
Has not only read, but write access to BFS servers. Not only has read, but write access to BFS servers. My sources have also independently, and before publication of the Wire article at 1 a.m. today, confirmed their reporting that, and then he semicolons. Two of those sources say that Ellis's privileges include the ability not just to read, but to write code on two of the most sensitive systems in the U.S. government, the Payment Automation Manager, PAM, and the Secure Payment System, SPS, at the Bureau of Fiscal Service, BFS. Housed on a top-secret mainframe, these systems control, on a granular level, government payments that in their totality amount to more than a fifth of the U.S. economy. I guess government does make jobs. Additionally, I can exclusively report that while there was initial hesitation from IT leadership, he puts that in quotes, to give them access, they relented. He goes on to write, one source explicitly said they were only reporting to me because there was no one left in the federal government to report security breaches to. You recall one of the first things that the Trump administration did was to fire 18, I think it was, inspector generals. So all the watchdogs of some of the biggest agencies were fired and not replaced.
Yeah, that's who you get transparency from.
One source explicitly said to me they were only reporting to me because there was no one left in the federal government to report security breaches to. This quote, I do not wish to harm my agency in any way. I loved working here. We did some of the most important work in the country and barely anyone knew who we were. In normal times, I would report insider threats to the appropriate security channels inside the government, but there is no one left for me to report it to.
By design.
He goes on to say lawsuits have been launched to stop this on privacy grounds. But we need so much more. Strongly worded letters from Congress are not enough. There is a protest at Treasury today. There's also apparently a 50-state protest, I think at state capitals. I think this is tomorrow. We'll try and find more information on that.
I mean, this in the New York Times reported this a few days ago, and I saw CBS kind of reiterated it this morning. But this could give them, in theory, the ability to halt Medicare and Social Security. I mean, they have been asking for access to the systems that control those payments. They have access to that information. We're going to, talk about this maybe at another point. Hopefully we can get David Dayan on. I know he's busy, but he has a piece about the fact that there's now a lawsuit, thankfully, being levied by, I think it's like groups of public service employees, retirees.
And some labor unions.
Yeah. And government employees. They're basically suing the Treasury because this is a massive privacy violation. This is Elon Musk and his little minions have no more of a right to access the sensitive information about every single American then Sam does, then I do, then Matt does,
Imagine
then
if
Bradley
Hillary Clinton
does.
set up a server and started skimming all this information.
That's the other part. Apparently they're using a private server for this purpose. I'm not hearing dick from the Republicans, but like I just want to be clear about what information is on here. Your social security number, your bank information, home addresses, your medical information, theoretically, your bank information. This is like just essentially an agreed upon mass data breach for every single American. And it's like an almost poetic conclusion, a disastrous one, to the post 9/11 war on terror, loosening of these privacy laws and the unleashing of our tech sector coming together in this like dystopian reality culminating in this year.
The other issue is, of course, like you say, they could get a hold of Social Security payments or Medicare, but they could also prevent any agency they want to not be able to function in a moment. Now, this is assuming they have nefarious intent. Never mind everything they're doing is illicit. Even if you give them the complete benefit of the doubt, like beyond where I would ever do. But I'm going to just stipulate that you are a person who thinks Elon Musk is a genius. He is here. He is our savior. These group of early 20-something engineers, a handful of them, literally, they get the code and they want to try and replace everything with AI, and it's going to make everything more efficient in some fashion. Remember, yesterday, Tankus told us the goal of this system is not efficiency. The goal of this system is resiliency and effectiveness and operations. But let's say they want to put AI in there and replace some of the code for efficiency. You all remember when he did this with Twitter. And, you can't search. Oh, it's down for 5 hours. It's all chatbots. Whatever the problem you were having, one episode like that could literally tank our economy. 2 days of outages of the government not being able to pay people. 3 days of outages. Every third payment missed. Whatever it is. Could wreak harm of the likes of which we have not experienced. So this is that's why Tankus says this is beyond a 5-alarm fire. We've got a lot more stories that are 5-alarm fires, 4-alarm fires, and this is what it's going to be like for a while. And hopefully, the more people are aware of what's going on, the more we start to see protests. Apparently tomorrow it's at noon, 50 state capitals. Then maybe we can convince some of our leadership, though there's only a limited amount that they can do, to do that limited amount, rather than just, let's wait until he screws up.
And the Democrats who enabled this sale of TikTok along privacy concerns about the Chinese government having access to our information, I would like you to go stand in a corner, you're in timeout, and think a little bit about your insane hypocrisy. Because we have now elected Donald Trump, who has given the richest man on the planet
vulnerable to Chinese influence because he has business connections there.
And somebody who is absolutely an insane person who just did a Nazi salute at the inauguration, just gave him not just access to information that you would upload to TikTok, access to people's social security number, biometric information, bank information, financial data, all of that. And they have nothing to say about it. Or at the very least, they're not raising hell in the way that they should.
We'll talk more about this and particularly when we come back, we're going to talk about the tariffs, and we're going to be talking about what's going on with the USAID agency, and the question of USAID as an agency is going to be a template for questions that we're going to have to ask going forward, and is broadly a good template from how we deal with this administration. Hey folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.